What's up, nerds? Welcome back to the channel. Justin here as always. Thank you for stopping by and clicking on today's video. Today we're going to be talking about two Shudder originals, The Call and Superhost. Before I get into that, as I always say, guys, please show your support for the channel by liking this video. Comment down below. Let me know what you thought of these two doozies that we're going to be talking about. And as I always say, turn on your notifications. If you guys are a fan of the channel and you don't want to miss those future uploads, which I upload very regularly, as you guys know, turn on those notifications. It takes a lot of work to put out content regularly. So definitely support the channel by liking, commenting, and turning notifications on so you don't miss any uploads. And something that's been on my mind for a long time and something that definitely comes into play when talking about these two particular films, but horror in general, and something that I'm definitely going to be conscious of when reviewing films going forward, and that's expectations. What you expect when going into a film and being confident in what you like. Horror is so unique in that the subgenres within horror are just insanely vast. And there's so many different reasons that people watch horror. There are so many different and unique types of horror fans. Some people enjoy an intense and visceral experience, and some people put on a horror movie and they don't want to be scared at all. They want to laugh. They want to watch cheesy B movies, or they want to watch comfort movies, or they want to watch 80s slasher movies, or silly teen horror from the early 2000s. This is definitely something that I'm going to be considerate of when I talk about horror movies. Reading the comments, especially in some of my recent, more controversial reviews, has just sort of made me want to be very conscious and being respectful to everybody in the horror community. We all love horror. It doesn't matter what genre of horror you like. It doesn't matter what kind of horror movies or actors or directors. We're all horror fans, and I think that is very important. I just wanted to put that out there in case it matters to anybody watching. It doesn't matter what movies you've seen or haven't seen, what movies you like or don't like. It doesn't make you any better of a person. It doesn't make you an enemy if you don't like something that somebody does. And if somebody likes a movie that you don't like, just have a discussion about it. We don't need to attack anybody. I see that all over in comments, Facebook, Instagram, all that type of stuff. So I just wanted to talk about that. And I think the reason I thought about that when I was reviewing these movies is because technically both of these movies that we're going to be talking about today, The Call and Superhost, are bad movies. They're not great movies, like, objectively, in my personal opinion. Also, I don't want it to be a shock when I say I actually recommend both of these movies because they're fun. Anyway, I don't even know what my point is here, but I hope anybody who listened to this, who didn't skip over it, maybe got something from it. And something that I think is really important when reviewing films is letting people know expectations, rather than just saying black and white, this film is bad or it's good. I think sometimes just knowing what to expect is more important than the context of the review itself, in my opinion. Anyway, let's move on with the review. Be nice to each other. So we're going to kick this double feature review off first by talking about The Call. This was directed by Timothy Woodward Jr. Now, from looking at his IMDb, it looks like the majority of his filmography is the type of thing that you see like on the shelves in the DVD rack at Walmart or the front page of Redbox when you're scrolling through the movies you've never heard of. That's not a knock, I'm just saying. The Call does star Lin Shaye and Tobin Bell. Timothy Woodward Jr. previously worked with Lin Shaye and Tony Todd on the movie The Final Wish, which was actually written by Jeff Riddick, the writer of Final Destination. So he's worked with Lin Shaye before. Now when it Oh, The Call. The movie, in a nutshell, tells a story about an older couple who live in this old sort of end-of-the-road mansion. That's Tobin Bell and Lin Shaye, as well as a group of teenagers. We're introduced to our little crew of teenagers through Chester Rushing's character, Chris. He's new to school, and he runs into Tanya, played by Erin Sanders. She really reminds me of Julie Benz, who played Dexter's girlfriend. She was also in Mean Girls. I was getting like really strong Julie Benz vibes from her. And the two other people in this group are the on-again, off-again boyfriend of Tanya, Zach, played by Mike Manning, and his brother Brett. They're all hanging out one night and they start talking, and we learn that Tanya's little sister had gone missing years and years ago, and allegedly Lin Shaye's character had something to do with her sister's disappearance. So for years and years, these teenagers have been tormenting Lin Shaye's character, throwing rocks, screaming obscenities for years, walking by their house and making it their mission to basically just torment Lin Shaye and her husband, played by Tobin Bell. And this particular night of torment, Lin Shaye has had absolutely enough. She's reached her wit's end with his characters, and she ultimately commits suicide. She dies. A couple days later, the teenagers are invited to this house, and they are told that in Lin Shaye's final will, these kids will be rewarded a large sum of money if, in fact, they go upstairs and they answer a call from beyond the grave from Lin Shaye. In just one of the most ridiculous plots of all time. They have to go up to this room and wait for a phone call from beyond the grave from Lin Shaye. They pick up the phone. They have to stay on the phone call for 1 minute. If they last 1 minute on the phone call, then they will win this large prize. It's an absurd premise. And it's honestly, like, right from the beginning of the movie, the direction, the editing, the way it's shot, there's sort of just an awkward feeling. I think it comes down to the editing. Like, every little shot within a scene just lasts like 2 or 3 seconds too long, so the whole movie is a little awkward. The acting is not great, but Lin Shaye is definitely the shining star of this movie. She plays, as usual, this really explosive character. She's really, really good at it. Unfortunately, she's not in the movie that long, so she can't save the movie. Lin Shaye is a very strong presence on screen, but she can't really save this movie. Just the premise is just too bizarre. It's too silly, and the acting, frankly, just isn't that great. And basically, as each teenager goes up to make their call, horrible memories from their past are revisited and brought up. In all of these sort of like Nightmare on Elm Street style dream sequences, it's really, really similar to what happens in Nightmare on Elm Street. And this movie just goes into what I was talking about with expectations. All in all, this movie is not great. The writing's not good. The story is ridiculous. The acting is like average at best. And in fact, one of the actors in this movie, Mike Manning, Zach's character, I knew I had recognized him, and he was on a season of Real World a long time ago. So basically, if you go into this movie and knowing that it's going to be sort of bad and silly, you might have a good time with it. It has a fairly short runtime, doesn't overstay its welcome too much, but it's not great. It's not going to blow your mind. The rewatchability is extremely low. It's definitely like a one-off watch, but if you're just sitting around wanting something to sort of not think about too much and laugh a little bit, you might have a good time. Lin Shaye, as little as she's in it, makes a very memorable performance. Tobin Bell is barely in the movie, so, you know, keep that in mind as well. Doing his Tobin Bell thing. He's great, but him and Lin Shaye are in it for a limited amount of time. So, like I said at the beginning of this video, know what to expect, and you might have a good time with this. But as far as expectations, if you're somebody who has higher standards as far as writing, characters, and acting, you are gonna hate this movie, honestly. But if you're one of the people that likes sort of bad movies, you'll dig it. And now moving on to Superhost, and again, both of these movies fall under this category of knowing what to expect. This movie, again, is not greatly acted or written. The direction and camera work is actually fairly decent, but the performances in this movie are so over the top, especially when we're talking about Gracie Gillam's performance of our crazy host, Rebecca. It's probably going to be just way too silly for most people, but if you need a good laugh, this movie might be all right. This movie was written and directed by Brandon Christensen, who had actually done a couple movies that I haven't seen, but actually look pretty interesting. He did a movie called Z, some sort of a demon child movie. An 8-year-old terrorizes his parents and family around him, and then another like child type of oriented movie called Stillborn. This one actually stars Jesse Moss, who you guys might remember from Ginger Snaps. He plays a great role in Ginger Snaps, and actually stars Michael Ironside. So I haven't seen either of those movies, but they sound interesting. Anyway, Sarah Channing, who plays Claire, and Osric Cho, who plays Teddy, are two people who have a YouTube channel where they basically tour different Airbnb locations and review them. They have a lot of subscribers, but lately their subscriber count has really been dropping, so they really need a good video to sort of save their channel. Their monetization's going down, they're not making as much money, and they're slowly becoming less and less relevant. They're losing that clout. Losing that YouTube cloud that we all want. But the story really centers around these two characters finding out that their host, Rebecca, is off her rocker and she is batshit insane. And you pretty much know this from the beginning of the movie. If you see the thumbnail or the poster, you can see her face front and center and know that something is not right with her. The movie plays out sort of like you think it would. The host goes crazy, but you find out a little bit about why she is the way she is and why she did the things that she did in her past. The issue with this movie movie lies. First of all, the two lead characters don't have a lot of chemistry. They're supposed to be on the way to getting married, but they definitely seem more like brother and sister. I get way more brother and sister vibes from these two. And I think that was sort of intentional by the director to make it seem like there's a little bit of a disconnect. Claire's character is far more interested in the channel and gaining subscribers than she is in her relationship. But even so, he just didn't seem like a good match for her. I don't know. The casting of him, it just seemed more like a little brother type of thing. And then we get to the casting of Rebecca. This is a Disney actress, I guess. She's done a lot of stuff with Disney. Gracie Gillum. Her performance is just so ridiculous and over the top that a lot of people might find it sort of laughable. It sort of reminds me of the type of performance where you can see that it's an actress trying to act as crazy as she can rather than putting on a believable, like, insane character. I think that was a poor decision in casting on his part, choosing this actress, because it just wasn't believable to me. And also in the climax, when she's really going crazy, you have two people and this little tiny Rebecca host with just a knife. She can't weigh more than 120 pounds, and you have two people with an entire house of potential weapons. You know, fuck, irons, hammers, sticks, anything. I feel like, in my opinion, they could have easily fought this chick off, but for some reason they are just terrified of this Superhost. We get a small appearance from Barbara Crampton, very small appearance, but a memorable appearance, I will say. But there's really no root of why she is so insane. I think usually with these type of characters, they'll let you know that, you know, they were in a mental institution or something was seriously wrong with them. But you don't really get any sort of history about this girl. She's just all of a sudden crazy for no reason and sort of in an unbelievable way. But again, if you are ready to laugh, you are ready to have some goofs and gaffes from a completely absurd movie, you might dig it. There's a couple scenes of gore that are kind of cool. Rewatchability again on this is pretty low, sitting at about a 2.5, 3. Again, once you watch this movie, all of its bags of tricks are pretty much opened, and there's not really much to revisit on a second watch. So keep that in mind. But again, both of these movies are perfectly fine for putting on and just having a good time and laughing at some silly horror. If that type of thing floats your boat, you may enjoy The Call and or Superhost. Definitely, Superhost is a better movie than The Call, for sure. It's a more, like, it's more well made. I could definitely, as a YouTube content creator, especially with the opening scene of Superhost, I could definitely relate. Like, the stuff that they were portraying in the beginning of that movie is fairly accurate. As far as, like, you may be tired, but you still have to put this light on. You still have to put a face on and really try hard to make your videos as interesting as possible, trying to get people to like your videos and comment, because it's true. It's the plight of all of us content creators. So I think in particular, content creators may relate to the plight of our two main characters in Superhost. But that's it, guys. That's my review for Superhost and The Call. Moving on, I'm gonna do more of these, probably like Shudder reviews or Shudder Sundays, something. I'm gonna build this into a series. I like the idea of doing double feature reviews. I'll probably try to make these a little bit shorter. You guys know I ramble a lot in my videos, but it's just what I do. So guys, thank you so much for stopping by, hanging out with me. Sorry for my little rant at the beginning of the video, but I try to be as honest with you guys as possible. I think we're done here, guys. Stay weird. Remember to always be yourself, and I will see you, me and Pete will see you in the next one, guys. Thank you so much. Like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.